Welcome to Spilling the Tea podcast with your host, Laila Safaee. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Ryan Woolfenden. Ryan is an inspiring individual whose journey has always fascinated me, from aspiring footballer to entrepreneur in property and finance and dad of twins. The list really goes on. I really believe you'll gain valuable insights from my chat today with Ryan. And in this podcast, we're going to cover the pros and cons of running your own business or multiple businesses, challenges with business partnerships, and our funniest experiences in the lettings industry. Let's do this. And here he is, Ryan. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, obviously this feels a bit full circle actually, because should we tell everyone how we know each other?
Sure.
It'd be interesting to know your side of how we know each other.
I'll let you tell the story. You'll probably tell it better than me.
Well, like from what I remember, I knew of you when I was employed.
Yeah.
And I saw you as a bit of a competitor at that age. Obviously now I'm sitting here and I'm delighted you're sat here.
Thank you.
I do find you quite inspiring actually. I feel a bit embarrassed telling you these things. But yeah, through the industry, because you had Leader & Co first. Leader & Co first. That's how I remember you. So you were at Leader & Co then.
Do you remember showing me and the twins around the house?
Yes. Was I working for that company?
You were.
I won't name them.
Yeah. And then the landlord pulled out.
But she ended up being a friend and client of yours, didn't she?
She did. So I managed to at least get some business out of it. Yeah, but it was a bit stressful at the time. Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, that's how I remember you.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, obviously since then, I set up my company in 2017.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by full circle. I remember calling you and Katie when me and my business partner, Will, were separating at the very early stage. And I think I was crying on the phone to you.
You were, and I think you cried in person. I can't remember where was it? It was a grasshopper or something, wasn't it? I think we caught up as well. But yeah, you were a bit upset.
But that's why, I've always found you quite inspiring, because obviously grow from like employment days and seeing you as a competitor, and then obviously transforming into like the business side of things. I don't know, our relationship sort of grew. So if you remember it like that.
Yeah, ups and downs along the way, isn't it? But I think that's what happens when you're in business. I think it's just really weird, because I think in your previous employment, it was probably a different approach to the approach that you have now in terms of cultural, you're working for an agent that's probably a bit more aggressive in terms of canvassing and all that. Whereas I've always tried to be collaborative. I just think it's better to try and get on.
You are right, because in that industry, and certainly in the one that I was in, you're target driven and you're hungry, and it becomes not just relentless but quite aggressive.
Yeah.
So
I think when you've got targets to hit, it's different, isn't it? When you run your own business, you can sort of zoom out a bit easier and be a bit more long-term thinking, a bit more holistic. When you're employed and you've got targets, a bit more pressure, and just who you're surrounded by, right?
100%. You inherit your culture, don't you, as well?
Yeah, for sure. I 100% think that, yeah.
So I think with the agency now, I've taken a bit of flavour from what you've always done since you set up. But let's go back to the beginning. A little birdie told me you were an aspiring footballer. But how do you go from footballer to being a business entrepreneur? Because you've got your finger in so many pies.
Yeah. Well, I think football is just something I wanted to do since I was like really little. And I was really good at it. But I don't know. I was probably a bit lazy. I think that's probably it. I think people don't realise how mentally strong you have to be a footballer. No. If you think about it as a kid, like 99% of kids want to be a footballer, boys especially. More girls now as well, but certainly when I was growing up, boys especially, what do you want to be? Footballer. So it's super competitive, and along the way, there's just so many different obstacles, like going out with your friends, having a drink, girls, all this type of stuff. And to be that razor focused for such a long period of time is super, super hard.
Yeah.
And when you get injuries and setbacks, all that kind of stuff, it's just mentally very, very tough. And I wasn't mentally strong enough, which is weird now, because I think that's probably one of my strengths.
Yeah.
But that's because I've just worked on it. But when I was 15 when I started playing with the first team at Bournemouth. It was just a really tough environment with being around men all the time,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So were you studying at that point?
No, so I stopped school. I was supposed to be doing We had an affiliation with Brocklehurst College at the time, so supposed to be doing like A-levels and stuff, but I dropped out literally after my GCSEs. Supposed to go to Brocklehurst College, went there for like a few weeks, and then just started playing football full time until I was 19, I think. And then I just really fell out of love with it. Quit after one game, said to the manager, like,
can't do it.
You sort of thing.
Oh, God.
Just quit. Like, literally overnight, and it's just so bizarre having, played football for a professional club from 9 years old all the way through to just
stop playing.
Yeah.
Was that a bit nerve-wracking in a way, or were you just firm on the decision and you sort of had a plan B lined up?
Didn't have any plan B lined up, no, and often I don't, to be honest. I just sort of go two-footed into the next thing, but I didn't. I just so unhappy, I guess. It's just a really bizarre feeling when you live in the life that all your mates are like, can't believe,
we dream of.
Yeah, kicking a football for 2 hours a day, that was it. 3 hours a day, sometimes you get a double session maybe, and hating it. It's just weird.
So how did you go from
that
to where you are now?
So then I had to get a job. My mum was a bit mad at me because she'd wanted me to go to university, like the first one in the family to be university.
Yeah.
And I did all right GCSEs and everything, and she was like, just do your A-levels, and I'm like, no. So now I'm 3 years on, don't really want to go to university, and got a job at Liverpool Victoria.
Yeah.
Met my wife there, so that was.
Is that where you met your wife?
She was my boss then, so I always joke that she's still my boss now. Yeah. But met her, but then I just kind of had this thought that. In fact, I got passed over for promotion at Liverpool Victoria, which pissed me off. So I think that's when I again threw my toys out my pram and quit without anything to do. I've sort of got a habit of that. Got passed over for promotion that I wasn't happy with. Quit. Started working in call centre selling house insurance at Rias. I don't think it's called Rias anymore. It might be called something else.
Yeah.
But I just sat with a headset on all day, and I just thought, I don't really want to be doing this for the rest of my life. So then I took a pay cut to go into property. And
at what point? So had you already purchased your first property
while
you were working for those companies?
No. Or? So I purchased my first house when I was, I think, 21, and I was just started in agency and lettings, in Southbourne.
Yeah.
So I took a pay cut from selling house insurance to go and have work in property.
Did you have an interest in property? Is that what took you then to lettings?
It's probably all like the grand design programs and Sarah Beanie, and I think it's a way of earning a good amount of money without actually having a degree or proper education, something you could get stuck into. I was looking at car sales and stuff as well, just sales roles, but more face-to-face. I prefer face-to-face. And I remember getting offered a job by, I'll fuck it on him, Goadsby's, for like $8,000 or something.
What year was that?
2006, 2007.
Oh my Lord.
So it's like $8,000 plus commission. And I said, no, I can't do that. And he goes, we'll give you a company car. And at the time I had an Audi, and they were saying, we'll give me a Ford Fiesta. And I was like, no, thank you. And he came back, and then I think he said, he'll pay you $10,000, but don't tell anyone else, because someone's been there for 2 years and they're not on that. And then
Standard.
That was for sales. And then another job was lettings in Southbourne. So I took that one. They do give good training, don't they, at the more corporate style, I've never worked
even
in a corporate.
independence.
So Goadsby's was one of them, but I've never worked for a corporate. So I worked for a small independent, which is sink or swim environment, really. The manager was never there. So, I think I was only there for about 9-10 months, but he was never there. So it was proper sink or swim. But I guess, took to it and enjoyed it.
Just enjoyed more the letting side.
Well, that's all I did then, And then after about 6 months, the Slades across the road offered me an opportunity to set up a branch from scratch. And I'd only been doing the job for 6 months.
And how old were you then? Do you remember?
When 21? Yeah, 21-ish, I think.
Yeah.
2008.
You were moving through the motions and
taking
a step up the ladder.
I had like 3 jobs in the space of about two years. Liverpool Victoria, Rias, and the other agency that I started with. And then I was at Slades for about 5 years. They were great, to be fair. They were really, really good. But I handed my notice in before agreeing any money with them, which again is weird, isn't it? I think back a lot of things, like you normally get a job offer before, whereas I remember David Slade said to me, you're going to have to trust me. You're going to have to hand your notice in to prove that you're serious about taking this job on.
Yeah.
And I did. And
Yeah.
I remember my mum at the time going like, you're mad.
Yeah.
You just jumped jobs 3 times and then you don't even know what you're doing.
That is like the entrepreneurial spirit though, isn't it? Flying by the seat of your pants a little bit. Like when you're
I guess
going
so. I
through
never
the
really
motions.
had any aspirations at that stage to work.
Didn't?
No,
at
really.
all?
No. My parents worked, had their own business, a little corner shop.
Yeah.
They worked together. They were always rowing about work, and I didn't really see it as a big benefit. You know, sometimes getting the paid leave, you know, getting the salary at the end of the month, and I was on a really good salary at Slades.
And you were content with that,
Really
like that
content.
setup and employment. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I do miss that kind of security and
and I had it as good as I think you can get it as an employed role at Slades. It was really when Keely's dad died, he was an entrepreneur, and he was really always used to say to me, "You're working so hard, why don't you do it for yourself?" And it was when he died that made me think, actually, you know, me and Keely were thinking about starting a family anyway. Maybe this is an opportunity then to have a go myself, because I did set it up from scratch and everything else, just with someone else's money. But I didn't think I'd fully appreciated the benefit of a brand and stuff at Slade, because Slade's were a big agency, like dominant and stuff. So I had a lot of, you know, back then I was arrogant enough to think it was all me, but it was a lot of the brand.
We all go through that.
Yeah,
phase.
of course, yeah. But then that's what makes you take the leap. If you don't believe in yourself, you don't take the leap, do you?
No, 100%. But there is quite a distinct difference, isn't there, to being employed? And I think that sort of period between taking the leap from being employed to doing it on your own, I don't know what you think about that, but it's like,
I made the decision pretty quickly.
Do you?
I made the decision really quickly to do it, and it's like an itch you've got to scratch. So once it's there, like you know, you got to scratch it, because otherwise you'll always be eating away at you. But I definitely underestimated how hard it was going to be.
100%.
Yeah.
Did you have Keely as like? Did she give you that support? Was Keely a good support network for you during that period?
Yeah, 100%. She's amazing. Always like that. She'll always support me. She'll challenge me a little bit, but then ultimately she'll say, "You know what you're doing. I believe in you." Aww. You know, so she's super like that. Yeah, and she's always supported me. And I think because her dad had his own businesses and was an entrepreneur and stuff, she felt she was used to that environment as well. She had probably a much, you know, her dad was much more successful than my parents in terms of monetary stuff. So I think she saw more of the benefits of it than I did, to be honest with you. So yeah, she was super supportive. Yeah.
So for you, was it like taking that step into doing it for yourself? Was that motivated probably by the fact that you were going to start a family with Keely, and then it would give you flexibility?
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult when you look back, because I don't know if I had that enough foresight at the time. It might have been motivated a bit more by ambition to create something. You know, when Keely's dad died, Keely Leader is her maiden name. It was a way of keeping the name going, so there was a bit of that to it. You know, like legacy and stuff. But I don't know whether I did have the foresight at the time to think it's going to be great when I've got kids, because I can just have so much more time with them and that flexibility. But I guess there was an element of that to it.
And then the babies, the twins arrived.
11 last week.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
I do actually remember them on the viewing, and they were tiny.
Very
would have been like 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think they were about 18 months.
They were Diddy, or just starting to walk.
Yeah, Darcy was walking. Zach, I don't think was.
Oh God, where's the time go? It's actually terrifying.
So honestly, if you do have kids, you'll realise it just goes even quicker. It's just mental. It's like a blink of an eye. Decade's just gone. And people used to say it to me before I had kids, like, it seems so condescending, but genuinely, having had it for the last 10 years now,
Well, that's something I wanted to ask you, because for me, it's quite terrifying, like the idea of trying to juggle business, because I'm still working on that work-life balance, and the thought of having children and a partner, I don't know how I could juggle that successfully. So I wanted to ask you, because you've got the twins, you've got Keely, and you've got multiple businesses. How do you...
Well, to be fair, Keely was pregnant with the twins when I set the business as well, so that was an extra challenge. But for the first 2 years, I didn't really see him that much. I was working like a lot, you know, sort of 7 days a week, 12-hour days. It was hard, but that was a very conscious decision. Like, if I do that when they're 2, they won't remember what it was like
Yeah.
with me not being around. But the trade-off is then that I'm there for every sports day, every school event,
100%.
doing the school drop-off. I get to do all of that. But for the first 2 years, there was a lot of sacrifice.
So you set up your letting agency.
Yep.
Did you have a premises immediately? Did you find one, or did you work
to start with? And then I think literally about a month afterwards, Keely said we obviously found out Keely was pregnant with twins. And at that point I got premises, I think it was April. The twins were due in July. So a couple of months before they were popping out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you worked from home.
Yeah.
Where did you, how did you get that off the ground? Did you already have...
I didn't really. I mean, it was really slow. I mean, I kind of just had this, expectation that I'm a good letting agent. People will find me.
Yeah.
I think it was different from when I set up in 2008. The market just crashed. So loads of people couldn't sell and were renting the properties out. So I remember going to I think we got to 100 properties in our first year of management.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But again, they had 4 sales offices feeding into that. It was a really good dominant brand in the area. Had lots of salespeople helping out, but me being sort of the arrogant sod that I am, was thinking, it's all because I'm fantastic. Whereas when you're out on your own from a cold start, so much harder. Yeah, so much harder. So, how did it get? It was really slow for the first 2 years, really. And that's what I meant. It's like a bit like a flywheel. It takes a lot to get it off the ground, but once you get a bit of momentum, it's a bit easier to keep it going. I find it really, you sort of about work-life balance, but when you work from home all the time, and especially when a business is new, it was so hard because I'd be watching Netflix during the day and then thinking, shit, I better do the contracts, and I'm doing them at 1 in the morning. It's really hard to keep your discipline, which is weird because I was actually working hard at the time in Sledge, really hard. So then to go to that when no one's like, you don't have to be in at a certain time or anything like that. It was
self-motivate.
It was a big culture shock for sure. Yeah.
It definitely, I felt that massively, taking that step from being in that employed position to then running
routine,
my own company. You're not used to it. You're suddenly given so much freedom, and it's like...
Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah.
Well, for me it was.
Yeah, no, it wasn't for me, but I just found myself... I don't know about you, but I mentally... Even till very recently, like even a couple of years ago, I was still of that mentality actually that I would beat myself up if I wasn't physically sat in the office with my team at 9:30, and I was still in that sort of I wasn't really enjoying or appreciating the opportunity that I have created by having my own agency. I still had that. I don't know if that's a good thing or... I have. Honestly, I felt so guilty the first few years. It was just...
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think I've ever really had that. No, I think I beat myself up over a lot of things, but I've never really been like a clock watcher. For example, you have to be at 9 and 6 and stuff. And Steph, who works for you, used to work for me, will verify that. I was more about just make sure the clients are happy. Think about the bigger picture. Clients are happy, we're making money.
Yeah.
There's many different ways you can deliver that.
100%.
That doesn't necessarily revolve around you being in a particular place from 9 till 5, right?
Yeah, 100%. So lettings.
Yeah. So I bought another letting agency, and they did sales.
Yeah.
I'd started doing sales actually probably about 6 months before that, but very low key.
So was the goal to grow the portfolio?
Yeah, but I just thought once I've got the premises, I've got the overheads, actually doing sales isn't that much more expensive to do. And obviously the fees are much higher.
Yeah.
So it was a cash flow decision really. And I got real lucky. I remember I ran out of money after about 12 months. And I remember trying to think about advertising spend, and the Echo quoted me something ridiculous for paper advertising.
Oh my gosh.
I then started my own newspaper up. The Green.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I started that up as a newspaper just off the back. And I remember going to see Mark Cribb, who owns Jenkins and Sons on Owen Beach, with like my little fag packet sort of plan of what I was going to do. And he's like, "Where's your rate card?" And I'm like, "Sorry, what's a rate card?"
A rate card?
And I think he took pity on me and advertised. And then off the back of him advertising or committing to advertise, I could get other people involved because I could say, "Oh, well, Mark's advertising," and it has a bit of credibility to it.
I love this.
And I just managed to get it off the ground, and I got super lucky. I did a quiz for a little boy who had like, I think they call it butterfly syndrome, but the skin peels off.
Oh my goodness.
Mason, it's called.
Oh.
So we did a little charity event for him as well at Patrick's, and I happened to get like loads of business out of it.
Did you?
Yeah, like I remember my first house selling was in Overbury Road. It was like a 600 grand house, and the people that sold that had been to my quiz off the back of the green. So it was green, the quiz, and that. And yeah, I got instructed, and that was I think my first ever sale was like a 600 grand.
Amazing.
House. And then that 6 grand obviously then, commission funds a lot of other stuff, a few new issues and all that. It kind of snowballed from there. So,
that's wild.
Yeah, just got a bit lucky.
That's one thing over the years that I've been really inspired by, your creativity. And obviously...
I think that's because I'm under the cosh though. Like, I think sometimes when your back's against the wall, you have to be creative. I didn't have enough money to advertise.
Yeah.
So what can I do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it does make such a difference. And then that definitely did really establish your brand quite strongly, especially when you went into business partnership with another agent. I'll let you tell that story. But for me, looking in, I was like, wow, you really did take it. It was like in my eyes, it was like overnight. And you were suddenly delivering like a lot of social media.
Probably that iceberg effect, isn't it though? Where you like... the success is the bit that people see, but there's a big thing underneath.
Of course.
I think Katie coming on board definitely was a huge factor in propelling it in terms of just her social contacts and stuff like that.
So for people that don't know, so Katie was another agent in your area.
Yeah. And...
Well, I always only ever heard her name. When I was first in agency, I would just hear, Katie is wonderful, Katie is wonderful. And I'd always think, who is this Katie? I want to be the lettings version of Katie.
Well, she sold my first house. So that's how we first met. Because my first house was in Parkstone. I just bought another agency. So the idea was that I would be at the other agency and then Katie can look after Ashley Cross. It didn't pan out exactly like that, but yeah, I think the agency definitely really started to grow with that as well. And I think marketing was definitely more my forte than being client facing.
Yeah, and she was the
client facing one. Yeah, she loved all that, and I didn't.
So
I thought it's weird. I think that I listened to a podcast by the guy that started Spotify, and he said, look, there's two types of people: a bit extrovert and introvert, but there's sometimes people that are around people. And it gives them energy. It's like charging them up.
Yeah.
There's people that are around people and it drains them.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the one that it drains. Like everyone's like, oh, you seem really chatty and everything else, but I feel like I need to recharge.
Yeah.
Very quickly after, like an iPhone battery.
So you bought another portfolio.
Yeah, bought another portfolio, and they had sales and lettings, but I was mainly buying it for the lettings portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the same time, I was in discussions with Katie about her coming on as a business partner. And I think that really sort of propelled us to, new heights, sort of from going from a relatively like small agency to probably being like top 3 within 6 months, I would say, in Ashley Cross.
The brand was strong. It really was.
Thank you. I think it's difficult when you're involved in it because, I spent a lot of time in London looking at what Foxtons are doing, all that sort of stuff, and Paul's pretty sleepy and old-fashioned. So I felt it was quite easy to make some good gains in terms of marketing and be a bit fresh and everything.
Were one of the first that definitely, put your boards out there with your face on and very Americanized, but obviously in London they were doing that.
Yeah.
It's all
There's
very
an agency
innovative.
called Newman's at the time. I think they're called like the property experts now or something. But I remember going on a training course and seeing how they've sort of Americanized it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he spent a lot of time at conferences in America before he brought it back. But I just felt like it was a good way of making it a bit more personal. But even like social media, retargeting, I think we're one of the first agents that started doing that. So, Facebook retargeting is old hat now, but at the time, no one else was doing it locally.
Definitely.
I think we were leading the way on a lot of the marketing fronts for sure.
Yeah, I really loved the brand actually.
Thank you.
And it's funny talking about business partnerships and obviously us reconnecting and me ending up crying on you about my business partnership coming to an end. Yeah. Obviously, my partnership with Will lasted all of about 3 months.
Yeah.
We're still really good friends and he's gone on his path and I probably wouldn't have set up my agency without Will,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have taken the plunge.
Yeah.
And at that time in my career, you had just formulated your partnership, or just before, with Katie. So, and then I'm on the phone to you crying and asking for advice on what I should do, because at that point I was like, oh my God, like, I don't think I can do this on my own. I don't have a clue. And you had so many inspiring words for me. And actually, the conversation with you and Katie, I think one of them was on loudspeaker, and you were both there. That was definitely part of my journey in terms of not giving up, actually. So I'm very grateful for that.
Very often.
But it does come with its challenges, doesn't it?
It can be lonely, right? I think that's the thing when you're in business, is that it can be really lonely, even when you've got a business partner, everything's going great or not great. It can still feel very lonely because you've got your own sort of view and you are the person that's steering the ship, aren't you? So yeah, it can be tough, and that's why it's nice to have people that you can talk to without fear of an agenda or someone not wanting the absolute best for you, you know?
Definitely. And obviously your business partnership, you know, came to an end.
Yeah.
How long were you in business partnership?
5 years, I think.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I think we just wanted different things and saw different, had different outlooks on what we wanted from it. And yeah, I'm probably a very hard person to have as a business partner, because I like it my way, which isn't really conducive for a partnership, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think I'm probably challenging to have as a business partner, but I like to do things my way. Like with all the, you know, marketing fees, you know, that was one of the things that I implemented where, from a state agency point of view, people would pay upfront fees for marketing. Well, no one else was doing that locally.
No, they weren't.
I wanted to do it. I thought it was a good way for cash flow, but also for clients to have skin in the game. There was just lots of benefits. I like the transparency of it. People get to choose which bits of marketing they want, but I think I'm always like change. I like change. What else can we do that's new?
Yeah.
And Katie was been doing it for a lot longer than I had and was very successful, but had her way. And I think sometimes it's difficult. And I think if you're not both completely aligned, it makes it harder for the team and all the kind of stuff. So
if you could go back to the very beginning of your partnership, is there anything you would have done differently to maybe...
Yeah, I think so. I think I'd have thrashed out the roles and responsibilities a bit more.
Yeah.
To really detail, like, what are my roles and what are your roles? You know, but I think if you thrash them out to start with,
yeah,
it's probably only the benefit of the hindsight. You know, like you were saying about winging it, a lot of stuff I've done is wing it, and thankfully a lot of it's worked out. But
I think everyone's winging it to a degree, aren't they?
Until you've done it.
Yeah.
You know.
That's where things got difficult with Will and I.
Yeah.
We didn't have an agreement in place at all. It was very loose conversation.
Yeah.
So actually, when
Katie and I had those, I mean, they don't mean we don't have challenges or anything. But to be fair, everything worked out really quickly with me and Katie. Once we made the decision, that part of it was actually really, really good. So definitely have a shareholders agreement. But I think I'd have spent a lot more time going through, like, what are we actually? You know, what is your role? What is my role? What are you bringing to the table? I think it's probably just excitement. You know, I just bought another agency. Katie had aspirations to run a business herself.
Yeah.
And it's like we felt that we were a good fit in terms of values, all that sort of stuff. So it all got probably rushed through perhaps a bit quicker. But certainly in reflection, I mean, we had 5 great years.
I was going to say, you both together built a fantastic brand.
Yeah, and I'm really pleased that she didn't continue to do well. And it's nice that, you know, my office is still above hers. My career obviously started in lettings. I've still got a lettings business. I've now added that to a mortgage business. So, you know, we're both really happy, and it's nice when you can get a bit of a win-win at the end of it.
100%. But there is challenges. So that's number one top tip of the day, actually. You can have the formalities of like an agreement, but actually outlining your roles and responsibilities from the beginning does take that.
I think you've got something to pin back to when things start to drift off.
Yeah.
Because that naturally happens.
I'd agree with that.
Because people's lives change, other stuff
100%.
happens, you know.
I mean, Will, you know, it felt like the world was ending for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I wish that I'd have taken everyone's kind advice at the time, but I thought the world was ending. This is the worst thing in the world. But actually, everything works out for a reason, like you say.
It's easier said than done, though. At the time,
Yeah.
You've taken the step to leave an agency where you're getting paid at the end of each month, annual leave, real job security, doing really well thought of, to everything on you, and it's not going how in your head you thought it was going to be.
My safety blanket's trying to go to Australia with his new girlfriend. And I mean, it's worked out for him and I'm so happy. And it's worked out for me as well. Because the agency that I've got now wouldn't have been the same agency had we have both been together. But I think
sometimes you just need to get through it.
Definitely.
Those feelings are normal of
100%. Do you prefer, with your businesses, because you've got the mortgage company, lettings company, which is a management
Unfortunately,
company.
I also have got a corner shop now that I inherited from my parents, which is
footballer to corner shop, legend. But what's your favourite? Do you have a favourite out of your businesses?
Not really. No, I wouldn't say so. But
you just enjoy working for yourself, and
definitely enjoy working for myself. Really enjoy working with Vicky. Vicky's been with for like 7 years, I think now.
Your wing woman.
Yeah, she's amazing. I don't know that I'd necessarily want to do lettings without her, to be honest. It's a weird thing to say because it's my business, but I just get on with her so well. She's like the nicest person, so reliable, conscientious, just honestly like dream. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So I'd say that's probably the best bit. Yeah.
Keeps you going to the office.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I would happily just work from home. I go to the office I'm better at being on my own than she is.
Yeah.
She likes the company as much as I can be a bit of a mood hoover, etc. I know that she likes me being around, so I probably do go in just to keep her happy, because I would be happily work from home now. But it's not. Yeah, that's probably the best bit about it now, I think.
So on lettings. What is the funniest or strangest thing that you've ever encountered during
it's difficult, isn't it?
Your time as a letting agent?
Definitely some strange things. You've had like when you do property inspections,
oh
you
my
see all
gosh.
sorts, don't you?
Oh my goodness.
I sometimes think like, do they leave stuff there for you to see on purpose? Like
on what?
Well,
can we say?
Like rabbits, not the animal
Oh
kind.
God!
Drugs.
Oh
Lord. Just like God. So we've had all that kind of stuff.
I've got some weird and wonderful stories. Have you ever had anybody go to the toilet while on a viewing?
Yes. Yeah.
We had a chap.
And the toilet's not connected as well.
Oh.
So they've left the present.
Oh my Lord. How do you even deal with that? What did you say to your client? Did you plunge it yourself, or did you call them?
I did not plunge it. No. I said, I'm really sorry. The applicant asked permission to the toilet, and we didn't know it was not connected.
Oh my God! I'm literally dying inside.
It's not a nice call to make, is it? I've had it happen more than once actually, and I remember one was really not happy, and one was just in hysterics about it.
That's so funny.
So yeah, we definitely had floaters left.
We had a chap there a long time ago, not during Silverbirch times. And he was on a viewing, asked to use the toilet, but then he left the door open. It was in this like HMO, and you're all like awkwardly walking up the corridor, like trying to give him some space, thinking, is he going to shut the bathroom door? He left the door ajar, and then went for a number 2. Oh my God!
A door open?
Yes! Oh my God! I just remember like everything just went out the window. I couldn't even have a conversation with this man. I was just like,
did he wash his hands?
I can't remember.
I'd be checking if he washed his hands.
I was just so confused by the situation. I was just like, why would you do that with the door open?
Aren't they?
Thankfully, I don't deal with that kind of clientele anymore. Oh God! But yeah,
I'd have shut it for him, I think.
Oh my God! Yeah, me now probably would have, but yeah. You recently raised £2,500 for the Samaritans. Was your challenge the 496 challenge?
496, yeah.
Tell me about that.
That
The gardeners just smashed the window.
What's the strangest thing that's ever happened? Funny enough, I was doing a podcast and the window just smashed.
The gardener just smashed the window. I have no words.
So what's the strangest thing? Well, that was quite funny. We're here in the garden. It's shattered,
So So you recently raised £2,500 for the Samaritans,
yeah.
the 496 challenge. Tell me about it.
So the reason I did it is sad story, sounds like an X Factor sob story, but a friend of mine took his own life, and he actually had his son was about a year older than the twins, and just good friends of ours. Yeah, really, really sad, and obviously mental health gets talked about a lot more, but I think when it's like anything, it becomes a statistic when you read it in the paper, but when it's personal to you, it sort of hits home a bit more. So I wanted to do something that was really tough to try and raise some money. I asked Hannah, Steve's wife, who do they want to donate the money to, and she said the Samaritans have been great. So that was why. But it was just a really tough running challenge. I didn't train.
And you didn't train?
Didn't train for it.
Oh,
I just thought
Lord.
I'll be all right. I'll sort of build a bit of momentum, because the 496 challenges, you run 1 kilometre on day one, then 2 kilometres day two, 3 kilometres, all the way up to 31 kilometres and 31 days in the month. Add it all up together, and you will have run 496 kilometres in the month, so about 310 miles. Yeah, well, I ran more in that month than I think I've done in the previous 3 years.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, it was tough.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
And for an amazing cause.
Yeah. Well, the thing is as well, I was posting daily. You can't quit then. How can you? When you've made it public and you've got people who have donated a lot of money for it and all that kind of stuff.
Couldn't give up.
Yeah.
No,
yeah,
and
it was tough.
and for him,
for
the cause and for
exactly.
the memory of him.
Yeah.
Which is
it's come up for a year anniversary. I think that was about 2 weeks ago now. Yeah, so I mean that's gone incredibly quick.
Am I right in thinking with your mortgage company?
Yep.
I'm obviously, for all the listeners and viewers, going to tag your handles in so they can see your multiple businesses and connect with you directly. But your mortgage company, via that platform and business, you do raise a lot of awareness, don't you?
Yeah, I do it every Monday. I've said for the rest of this year. As part of that, I'll do a little interview with someone or a little thought about mental health, and just try and bring it to the forefront of people's minds. Probably a bit of therapy for me sometimes as well. But I think the weird thing about that is that I wasn't necessarily expecting much engagement, but I've actually had quite a few friends saying they've been going through tough times. And men are shit at it anyway.
They're communicating.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the ones that don't communicate.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it just all the cliches, but they're true. It's okay not to be okay, and it's good to talk. But it is true. I think what I really struggle with is that I don't really suffer from mental health. We all have good days and bad days, right?
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say I've ever really suffered from debilitating depression and stuff. And I just find it's a real weird thing that with kids, I just couldn't, do that. Take my own life, thinking what it's like for Keely and the kids to be left behind.
Yeah.
But equally, I kind of think with Steve, how bad must he have felt that he thought that was a logical, sensible approach to take? You
don't know how dark it was for him.
No, you can't. And you're kind of weird when you've got someone that you know and that you like and that your friends would take their own life, because it really ranges from feeling sad for them to be really angry with them.
Yeah.
It's just a really weird feeling. And
so for you, raising awareness, do you feel like that's helping you process it as well?
Possibly, yeah, probably a good way of looking at it. But I also want to try and create an environment for my kids where they can talk about it. And I think social media, obviously, this will be posted on social media, so it feels a bit ironic slagging it off. But I think it can be really challenging for kids growing up at an age where they can't switch off. So I kind of want to get into the habit of them seeing that it's okay to be vulnerable and talk about stuff. And even if it's upsetting or makes you sad or you're having thoughts, they're just thoughts. Talk about them. Yeah.
Definitely. I think by raising this awareness as well, I recently jumped on a podcast with someone else to discuss online bullying and harassment, and it is a huge we
can't really turn it off.
No.
I feel really lucky growing up in an age where I did, where if you're having a shit day, you just go to your room, close the door, and you don't have a mobile device, you don't have that constant social media, so you can really switch off. Whereas I think now it's just 24/7, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a lot. I think it's affecting so many people of all walks of life. And then we could go down a rabbit hole here with this, but I think it's amazing what you're doing, and keep doing what you're doing, because more people like you are hopefully going to make a difference.
Just everyone, just have to influence one person, they influence one person, just sort of pay it forward, trickle down.
100%. So as a little closing question tradition, got a little question for you, Ryan.
Okay.
So if you had to write a book about your life, what would the title be and why?
I don't know if anyone would want to read a book about my life to maybe Confessions of a Mood Hoover.
I wouldn't have you sat here if
true.
I didn't think that this was going to be a valuable conversation. People will take a lot from it.
Thanks.
But yeah, come on, the book.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of something sort of profound, but I don't know. Just the Mood Hoover or something like
The Mood Hoover.
Something to express how sort of antisocial I am now. The grumpy old man or something.
But
like
that's not how you portray, which blows my mind actually. How like introverted you are, but you're not.
I think when you work with me day in day out, if you were to ask Steph what I was like, I think Mood Hoover and grumpy old man probably would fit. But I'd also like to think that I'm kind and caring and
Very
nice and
so.
all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, I think my natural disposition isn't a sunny one.
No, but I find it fascinating that you've got such forward-facing roles in all your businesses, yet you actually prefer to not.
Yeah, but I think that's only because of the size. When I had Katie and stuff, I wasn't very client-facing, and that,
You could hide away.
Yeah, upstairs. Yeah, I do. But then I prefer to focus on the team.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was my job to make sure that they're happy and
That's
give them the
something
tools.
I have insight on because obviously Steph, who's now a business associate, colleague, and she's a friend, when she was employed by you, I remember how you inspired her, and she had quite a dark place while she was she was employed. She was going through her own personal things, and it was you actually that helped her get out of those dark places, and you inspired her by giving her books.
Which she never read until...
She did. She did. She read the books, and actually she's given me a
runner
couple
and
of
a reader now.
She's a runner and a reader.
Yeah, yeah.
I've taken her back. But no, you did. And so that very much reflects what you were doing with your team.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really important. I think culturally now it's very different. When generation before it was the boss tells you what to do, you're there, you do your work. It's do as I say, not as I do. And I just think culturally now it's very, very different. You have to have that sort of teamship element. Lead by example. Don't tell your staff to do something you're not prepared to do yourself. And I just think there's been a big shift.
Definitely.
And I think it's really, really important that you do support your team because one, it's the right thing to do, but two, the team will perform better. It's
100%.
just good sense. If someone's happy, they will perform better than
Well, she had a lot of respect for you. She would take those books on holiday or on a break, and she got into podcasts. And I've watched her as a friend completely transform from where she was. And now she's like my little walking sidekick therapist. She's like, right, you should be doing this. But you've done that. You have been part of that.
James Clear Atomic Habit quotes at you.
Atomic Habits, that's one of the books. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I need to read that. I haven't finished it.
It's a good book. You should read it. I'll start doing it to you.
Yeah, please do. I do need that. Well, now Steph's like a mini you. So she's always like, right, listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
For everyone watching and listening, I am going to tag all your handles in the podcast so they can find you, Ryan.
Yeah, I'll be offline for the next few weeks then.
Oh, thank you so much.
No problem. Pleasure.